Yo, time cops and flyboys coming to you from mere minutes in the future. This is Film versus Film. My name is Quim Boys. I have premeditated over 12 murders in my lifetime. I haven't committed any. And I am joined, as always, by my co-host. He spends a lot of time in the cockpit, Leonard Smith Jr. What's up, Leonard?
Oh, my God. Oh, I'm seeing it. I'm about to introduce our guest in 30 seconds. Hello, I am Leonard Smith Jr.
I'm timing you.
For being here on Film versus Film podcast. We got a great guest today. Our buddy, okay? He's an actor, professor, editor. You might know him from Everything is Terrible. Give it up for Lehr Beidelschies.
Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah.
Incredible amount of
It's so
pressure.
wild. Like, I'll know the right name and I still say it wrong.
Leonard,
if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I do this all the time. I was like, God damn it.
Don't worry about it, man. It's literally been my entire life. Like, closest friends of mine still go, Lehr? Oh, damn. Yeah.
I know it's Lehr. But what I was worried about was the Beidelschies, which, if you look at your name,
sounds like something. That sounds like
Put that on a shirt.
Yeah. What I was worried about was the Beidelschies. Like it's like the Jersey Devil that lives in the wood.
With a Bigfoot.
you're gonna see his name on the screen, and you're gonna be like, "That's how it's pronounced."
Yeah,
it's wild.
We could do like a little
make
like
sense.
like the name and then like pronounced this way. You know.
That's what I use on my email signature.
I've seen that, actually, yeah.
I do the full phonetic.
Were your
dictionary
parents?
style.
We usually don't spend this much time roasting the name of our guest, especially when he's made accommodations to be here at a special time. But were your
8:30.
parents like seeing your last name and then they were like, "In for a penny, in for a pound"? Let's just give him a hard to pronounce first name.
Honestly, I have no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually named after my grandfather, who hated his name and went by Larry. And my dad was like, "Yeah, let's give him a challenge, I guess. Like, see what."
That's hilarious. Knowing that your dad hated his name.
Yep.
How to honor this man? Yeah.
Yeah. Give this kid a 2 behind his name.
Was he around when you were born? Your dad, so was he like, God damn it? Did he have a strained relationship with you as a result?
Yeah.
Of getting a name that he hated?
They actually went by my middle name because they also thought I would hate Lehr. So for the first 18 years of my life, I went by Eddie.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Eddie Beidelschies. I don't know.
Yeah.
What? I don't know if you have a real Eddie energy.
I don't. That's why I changed that shit immediately in college.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna
you
give
don't
this
want to
name-
be Eddie in college.
I'm going to
No,
give this
you do
name
not.
18 years, and then I'm going to try
No, you do
something
not.
else.
Yeah, you don't want to roll into freshman year going, "Hi, I'm Eddie."
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm a fellow middle name user as well. My first name is Peter, and I don't think I have Peter energy.
Ooh,
Leonard, you're making a surprise face. I feel like you knew that. Did you forget?
I forgot. It's early in the morning, so this feels like new information to me.
I feel like you also knew the Eddie thing as well.
It's Peter Eddie.
Yeah.
You know what's
Pete and
funny?
Eddie. For this episode, I'm Pete and he's Eddie.
Well,
Yeah,
when I
I'll
was
do it.
like maybe 7 years old, I had decided I was tired of everybody calling me Leonard, and I wasn't going to go by Leonard anymore. I was going to go by my middle name, David.
Oh,
Would have been terrible.
yeah, that's a bad choice for you.
Yeah, David.
Yeah.
I don't have David energy. David's real basic.
But I understand not wanting to be called nerd.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. When my kids found out that my first name was Lehr in middle school, they were like, "Oh, what is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's German." And they were like, "Oh, like Hitler." And then like,
go
like-
run around the school.
World War
I have
I,
a quick.
World War II is a major learning
so
point.
what
in,
they,
Well, like on the bus, once they found that out, they would all yell out Hitler and come out of their seats and just hit me.
wow.
Yeah, for like an
you
entire
thought
year.
Beidelschies might have.
No, that fucked them up. Too many syllables in there.
They're still
Can't
figuring
do
out how to
it.
pronounce that.
Oh wow.
I guess that's good. I guess I'm proud of those kids because they're like Hitler. Like, they're still fighting.
Yeah, they're
against-
still
I
fighting.
didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I
they're
had
true
I was at the
Not a
doctor's
great
office.
situation to be in for you.
No, it definitely fucked me up just a little bit.
I was at the doctor's office the other day and I was making an appointment for a future. I was at the doctor and I was making an appointment for later. And the woman, she was probably like in her 50s or 60s, white woman, had never seen the name Leonard, I guess. She was like, Leonard?
What?
And I was like, Leonard? She's like, are you sure? She's like trying to tell me how my name should be. She's like, it should be Leonard then. I was like, no.
No, yeah, you spell it the conventional way.
I was like, it's called, you ever heard Leonard Nimoy? I like started naming Leonard.
Yeah.
Leonardo da Vinci.
He's like, do they call you Leo? And I was like, well, on the West Coast, they actually do. But I'm from the South and everybody called me Lynn in the
No
South.
one calls you Leo out here. You liar.
At Barney's Beanery, at my old job, I never asked anyone to call me Leo. One manager started calling me Leo. 7 years later, my name in the system is Leo Smith.
Okay.
And everybody introduces me as Leo. And it's like the only place. But like, I worked there for 7 years. So like everyone at my job calls me Leo. And it's weird.
The audacity of
I know.
that man.
I never
hate
asked
that
for
shit.
it. And people are like, what do you want to be called? I was like, I don't care, but I did not ask to be called Leo.
You're being too nice to imply right now, but do you think that lady, maybe she doesn't have hate in her heart, but was being racist when because you gave her a regular white man name and she goes, let me put some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's just like, well, what's the black pronunciation of your name?
Well, my first GM, that might be true. So who knows? Okay, but let's get into these movies.
What's our prompt again?
Quinn talked about Time Cops and Flyboys, and we're not talking about the movie Time Cop or Rocketeer. We are talking about, you know what? What's funny is one of these movies, they could be a Time Cop and a Flyboy, and we're talking about Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise movies.
Talk about a cool name. I mean, has there ever been a name better suited for a movie star, an action movie star, as it wound
Is that
up
his
being?
real name?
Is that his? I was wondering. Is that his?
I'm gonna look it up right now.
I feel like it's probably
It can't
not.
be real. It's too good.
It really is.
He looks like his name would be like Jimmy Ludkowicz.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck.
Taylor Richardson.
Yeah, that's better. Taylor Richardson.
It's his real name is Eddie Beidelschies.
Alrighty. Got up at 8:30 in the morning for getting roasted for my name.
Whether or not it's a real name, it feels like a name that you just. Okay, that's right. So his full name, he took his I guess his mother's maiden maybe or just his middle name, but his real last name is Mapother.
Wow. Exactly.
Mapother. So he would be Thomas Cruise Mapother the Fourth.
Wow.
Mapother?
Fuck that, Leonard Smith Jr. These guys got a couple more. Yeah, Mapother. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I don't care how to pronounce it.
And Mission Impossible.
Because he changed
Tom Mapother.
Yeah. It's real. Doesn't hit the same.
Cocktail starring Tom Mapother.
But at least Cruise is actually in his name. So that's cool.
Yeah,
he just
that's
took, nice. Yeah, it feels legit.
He gave Mapother away to Scientology. That's
the first advice they gave him. They're like, all right, here at Scientology, we make you a star. We're going to throw Mapother out the window and you leave this building, Tom Cruise. Okay, you're right. We
had so many movies.
To
choose from.
Also, we should, be straight up with what we just picked a Tom Cruise movie. Rather, I did for our 90s podcast. I picked fucking Jerry Maguire. Mistake. But I mean, a pretty big
mistake,
90s
apparently.
movie, a pretty big Tom Cruise movie.
I think it was a mistake. I don't think you were going to win. I don't think you were going to beat Independence Day. I don't know if that was going to happen.
No.
For best 90s movie.
I mean, to be fair, it was. I feel like I see both of those movies on the shelf in like every room I went into.
I was trying to make the argument
90s.
that that movie was more encapsulating of the 90s and that you could have theoretically made Independence Day anytime. But I think in terms of what had an impact on the 90s, it's hard to beat Independence Day.
Yeah.
It
really is.
But
someone's like, you should have done Armageddon. All right, sorry.
The reason why Quinn fucked up is we're talking to a man who is part of a group that has the most Jerry Maguire VHSs in the world.
That's true.
What's the number?
I mean, I lose track, but I think we're up to like 50, 60,000.
Holy,
like
I didn't think it was that much.
I feel like, you would have had to pick my
50,
movie.
60, I thought it was like 8,000.
No, we're way in the tens at this point.
Can
Yeah.
you explain the origins of that, Laura, for people that may not know? Or we don't have to get too in the weeds.
No,
but how does one come into contact with tens of thousands?
How does someone even make that many Jerry Maguire VHSs? Why is that happening?
That's ultimately the question, I believe. Like, why are we anyway?
That's upsetting.
It really is. I mean, that's part of the reason why we started like collecting, because we would go to thrift stores and collect VHS tapes, and you would start to see certain VHS tapes over and over again, like Independence Day or Armageddon or whatever. But Jerry Maguire just kept popping up, and it's just such a like iconic, like bright red with white lettering, that like script font.
Just
and then
Tom Cruise's
yeah,
smug
his
face.
or
Yeah.
Cuba Gooding on the other side, like. And so we would see them like in clumps, I feel like, at the thrift store. And we started taking pictures of them and putting them on the blog at the time. And then it just became like a running joke, and people started to send them to us. And we started going, oh, yeah, send us your Jerry Maguires. Here's a P.O. box. And it just became a thing where people were like, people's grandmothers were sending in like VHS tapes. And now it shows people bring boxes full of them and just dump them on the stage.
I saw a dude
beautiful
at
thing.
one of the Everything is Terrible shows bring like a 6-foot duffel bag full of fucking Jerry Maguires.
Yeah.
It was insane. There were like at least like 200 to 500 Jerry Maguires in it.
It's become its own little like economy in a weird way, because there's like a leaderboard on the website where there's like these fans have brought thousands of Jerrys to us, and like they like come up to us as like, okay, we dropped off 200 Jerrys, so can we put that on the leaderboard, please? And I'm like, yeah, sure, fine. But it's great. It's fun until you like lift like 3 tons of Jerry Maguires over the course of 10 years, or have to pack them up and ship them across the nation.
Well, I can't wait to see this Jerry Maguire pyramid.
Yeah, that's the end.
I feel like if
the
you go
ultimate end
to
goal.
Lehr's apartment or something, like all of his furniture is made of, like his coffee table is just a bunch of stacked Jerry Maguire.
7 years ago in
VHS.
Chicago, yes. now we're grown men. We have a storage facility for our Jerry
I was about
Maguire
to say,
VHS
where do you
tapes.
keep your Jerrys?
It's in a undisclosed location in the desert.
I'm picturing
The
like,
Ark of the Covenant is there as well. You got a guy like pushing a crate in an endless room.
I'm picturing it like in Tenet, where they have all the art in that thing, that crazy vault.
It's very much like that. It's very much like that, but much cheaper.
Much cheaper. All right.
let
Well,
John
we
David
had
Washington.
a lot of movies to pick from. we could start all the way back to 80s, Risky Business, Cocktails.
Yeah, can we talk briefly? I know we want to get to these movies and we'll get to them quick. Can we talk briefly about some of the movies we didn't pick? Obviously, we just went through Jerry Maguire, but like this man has. We should
4
say
decades.
We could tease
Really?
that none of our movies are from the 80s,
80s
or
or
90s,
90s.
where he was chief in the 90s, particularly the biggest movie star in the world. He's still one of the biggest movie stars in the world. But like
popping.
we were covering eras, but this guy's been a movie star for 4 decades now. So it's like we leave a lot on the table, and like his entire 80s output, Cocktail, Top Gun, the original, Risky
Good Men,
Business, A Few Good Men,
90s,
Rain Man, like a ton of Tom
Even
Maguire.
the 2000s are great. I mean, he got into Collateral, you
Yeah.
know.
Collateral was great.
Tropic Thunder, he was
All right,
awesome.
the-
No
Fucking
Mission
Jamie
Impossibles
Foxx.
on our list.
Mission
Arguably his James Bond franchise.
Listen, this is a competitive podcast. And
Yes,
I want
the
to
films
win.
are versing, Laura. In case you didn't.
I'm aware.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I wanted to go with my heart, but I didn't. I went with my second choice.
Okay.
Because I knew my first choice probably would not win.
Interesting strategy.
And my first choice was Vanilla Sky.
Which I was so begging you to pick. I was like, maybe try it.
You're like, go with your heart. I was like, nah,
you never know.
Well, I know what you guys picked, but I don't know who picked what, so I'm curious.
Well, we'll reveal that to you very shortly. Can I say what I almost picked?
Yes.
And this was after you had made the selection that you did make. So I was thinking a little bit like counter-programmy, kind of like, because Tom Cruise wears a couple different hats, but he's also
range.
not Daniel Day-Lewis. He's not a different character in every single movie. So I was like, the movie you picked, I was like, oh, maybe I could pick a Mission Impossible. I was concerned whether it was what I picked or you picked, it would be too
comparable.
close.
Yeah.
We'd be talking about like films, like types of films that he makes, and having it. So I was like, well, what's the other way? A Jerry Maguire would be a perfect example.
Sure.
But I almost, and then I was like, you're overthinking it. You didn't tell me if I don't know if you were hoping I picked it, but I almost picked Eyes Wide Shut because I was like, that's a Tom Cruise that we rarely see. That's a type of movie he doesn't really make. I either have to hope this is Lehr's favorite film or one of, or I might be in trouble here. So I backed off that one. So you had Vanilla Sky. We both had like fringe Tom Cruise movies that maybe our heart wanted us to pick. But the brutal fact of this podcast remains that
Tom
we're
Cruise.
trying to get a win, and we're talking
and it's
about
the
Tom
most
Cruise.
Tom Cruise film.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and give our picks.
Yeah.
And
We both picked Cocktail.
Well, you both won.
Oh,
Congratulations.
hell yeah. How's this work?
do you want to start?
I picked the first of, I believe, only 2. And it's kind of crazy because he'd been a movie star, like we said, for 20 years at this time. But he finally worked with the big dog. I picked His first collaboration with Steven Spielberg, the 2002 science fiction noir thriller Minority Report.
Look at me. I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dubin that was to take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours and 4 minutes. No.
John, don't run.
Everybody runs, Fletch.
Set in the year, I think, 2054, a year very much like our own, except slightly overexposed. And Tom Cruise plays a grieved, I was about to say widowed, but a sonless father. We don't have a word for that. Anyway, he plays a mourning parent whose his personal life is kind of in shambles, while he is at the same time nominally the head of, or the main executor of this new kind of policing called precognition, which is you take 3 bald kids and you put them in a pool and they predict the future, crime-related future specifically. And
they're neuro babies or whatever.
Yes.
The futuristic drug.
Neuroin, which
babies.
guess what drug that's based off of. But it's basically like it's a sci-fi story based on a Philip K. Dick novella. Love movies based on novellas because they have a lot of room to breathe,
Fill it out, yeah.
And so Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner. I mean, some of our most Total Recall, some of our most influential science fiction movies, particularly, have come from Philip K. Dick source material. There's a ton I'm sure I'm not thinking of right now, but this is a story of a man who is wrongly accused of a crime. It's kind of a Hitchcockian movie at its core. It's basically the wrongly accused man has to prove his innocence while remaining on the run. And it's got a lot of like fun elements of old 1950s, 40s noir cinema, while at the same time doing like kind of setting the template for the future that we envision for ourselves in 2002 and have largely worked to actualize. Every time I'm using a touch screen, I kind of think of myself as Tom Cruise at his little police station with those screens and his little gloves. I'm waiting for my little gloves to be able to turn the dials on my touchscreen. Technically, they're not touching the screen, but they're interacting with it in a way that feels very inspired to like what an iPad is.
It was so funny watching this, living in 2023, but like, I'm like, oh, this is 30 years from now. But like how certain technology, how they interacted with it, but he still also had hardware to put the music.
He's still using
like a floppy disk essentially. Yeah,
it's like, oh, it's so fun. No one had phones, but like who could predict that? But like, I just thought that was interesting. Like a ball dropping out. It was like, this would all be digital. This would all be AI. He would not, with the technology, he wouldn't physically be doing it. It would all be like AI.
Totally.
And recognition and stuff like that. But
I think.
But then they had the aspects when he comes into his home, he's like overhead lights. And like, it was like, well, then this should work over here like that at the police station.
I'm still charmed by
he gets a ball telling him what he gets for dinner.
Pasta again. I'm still charmed by the cereal box where he like comes home and he's watching the videos of his son and he's like,
great.
There's a story of Tom Cruise. Who knows if it's true, but it's a great story where he was at one point allegedly in talks with Tim Burton post-Batman to do his post-Batman project, which wound up being Edward Scissorhands. And Tom Cruise, at one point, if we are to believe the stories, was in line to play a very different type of Edward Scissorhands, I'd imagine. I think Tim Burton was like, oh, I always knew this was a bad idea. But, Tom Cruise wants to meet with you in a project. You go out and meet with him. And they like met at or maybe they didn't meet at a bar, but wherever they were talking, Tom Cruise was like, how do we make this guy a little bit more? What does he want? Let's give him like a love interest. They're like, maybe there's a scene where he goes out to a bar and Tim Burton's like kind of like meeting with like, because Tom Cruise always has to have like what feel like very like relatable to the audience, but not too dramatic like issues. So it's like maybe he wants a girl, or he goes to a bar and no one understands him because he has scissors for hands. And it's like, okay, thanks, Tom, we'll let you know. But I think in this movie too, it's like, all right, Tom, we're giving you essentially a heroin addiction. It's like, what do you do? It's like, I think I just go home and I crush cereal and I watch videos of my son and I cry a little bit. Like he's never that much of a bad guy. We don't really hate him for being a drug, despite being a cop who throws people in jail for crimes they haven't even committed yet. Talk about like echoes of our fascist state. But anyway, there's like very interesting, I think, questions about fate versus free will in this movie. A lot of like the big sci-fi stuff, but explored in an interesting way through these precogs that make it an iconic like thinking Tom Cruise movie, but also like it's just got a ton of baller scenes and great stuff. I always think about getting my eyes replaced in those little future spiders. So there's a lot of great stuff in this movie.
Great movie. Also was on my short list of movies to pick. Okay. How do you? What did you think when you got the two?
Well, you haven't talked about yours yet.
Okay,
So
yeah,
what
that's
did you?
yours.
What do you have any relationship to Minority Report? Did you see it when it came out?
I did. I saw
Yeah.
it in the theater. I was not a fan when I saw it the first time.
Interesting.
It could have been because I was in my film school. I know better than everything kind of thing. But I still have like some problems with this movie. But I watched it recently for this podcast. And it
Thank
wasn't
you.
as you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're
We
welcome.
always appreciate when people watch the films. It's
welcome.
not a guarantee.
Took
not
it
a
very
guarantee.
seriously. I liked it better the first time or the second time, but the first time we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. We're gonna talk about my film. Now, this was hard. This was tough. I feel like I pulled a Quinn here. Okay, but there may be some recency bias, but it doesn't matter because my pick is Top Gun Maverick. All right.
Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell. Let me be perfectly blunt. You are not my first choice. You are here at the request of Admiral Kazansky, AKA Iceman. He seems to think that you have something left to offer the Navy. What that is, I can't imagine.
With all due respect, sir, I'm not a teacher. Just want to manage expectations.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking.
And we're off.
It is Tom Cruise's magnum opus. Okay, it's pink. We wouldn't have this movie without all the 40, 50 other Tom Cruise movies, okay? This movie is fucking John Krasinski or whatever the fuck.
Joseph Kosinski,
Joseph
I think.
Kosinski directed.
Not
2022.
John Krasinski from The
Yeah, not John
Office.
Krasinski. This is the 30-year later sequel to Top Gun. And we're seeing Maverick as it's basically like Tom Cruise. It's like this is just Tom Cruise basically playing himself if he was in a flight school and in the Navy and whatnot. It just feels like a Tom Cruise movie. The beats are just like it's written so perfectly. When I saw this movie, I saw it like a few months after it had come out. And there was a regular at my job at Barney's Beanery. He drinks Black Rifle coffee. He
Okay.
was in the Army.
Sure.
He hates George Soros. And I would have to listen to all this bullshit all the time. And he kept telling me, you got to see Top Gun Maverick. You got to see Top Gun Maverick. You got to see Top Gun Maverick. And I did not want to see this movie. Of
course.
And I finally saw it. And I came into it being like, everybody being like, oh, this movie's so good. And I was like, and I fucking was blown away. I cried in the theater. Okay. This movie, I thought it was going to be corny.
Everyone here is the best there is. Who the hell are they going to get to teach us?
It was just like just the right amount of corny. It was just like, it's about Maverick 30 years later. He has not moved up in the ranks. He's still a captain.
Yeah.
He's still bullshitting. And the beginning of the movie, it's just like him working on a plane, jumping on a motorcycle, betraying, defying the leadership, going to Mach. He's supposed to go to Mach 9, but he goes to Mach 10.3 in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
What a
Come
maverick.
on.
True maverick.
True Maverick. Then he's like, oh, now you're getting kicked out. Oh, wait, you're not getting kicked out. You're teaching flight school. Come on, man. Come on. It's perfect.
The exact same beats that happened in the first movie.
It's perfect. We go
To
to
a
the
T.
bar, thrown out of the bar. Like, it's just, it's just, if you see, like, it's just it's an action movie, but it's also like, it's got like some softness to it.
Yeah.
And I hate action movies. It's not like over the top. Like all of which I heard this so many times, all of the flight scenes were like real scenes.
There's real jets, there's real popcorn.
It's not like AI, it's not special effects or anything like that. I'm like, holy shit, like this is insane that people are really flying planes like this. And Tom does all his own stunts. So it's a very simple movie. Tom Maverick is now teaching these people. They have a dangerous ass mission. We all know Goose died. It's haunting him. He's not doing drugs. He's not doing heroin.
Not this.
And not in this movie. And he has to get these kids ready, and then the Army being the Army, they move it up. The Navy being the Navy, move it up a week, making things even more intense. They always tighten the situation, and who else can do it? Maverick. He proves them wrong. They got to come out alive. He doesn't want Rooster Goose's son. He doesn't want his blood on his hands.
Of course not.
There's real motivation, and there are some over the top parts, but there has to be.
Yeah.
You know, there's a helicopter shooting at Tom Cruise, and he gets away. But I mean, how could you not pick this movie? And I feel like it's a cop out, but the movie's just too fucking good. And I feel like, that's it. Let's Top Gun Maverick.
I saw this movie almost like this movie was so dominant in the year of our Lord 2022 into this year. I saw it in May with my dad. I'll confess right now, I've never seen the original Top Gun. I don't think I care to. Because it feels like this was just I'd be seeing the same movie again, but perhaps a lesser version. I know a lot of people who prefer this one. Maybe I'll see it eventually. But I was like, hey, Dad, we should see this movie. People are pretty hot on it. And my dad, who's not like a huge movie guy, I mean, he likes movies fine, but he's not like rushing out to see the latest Tom Cruise. He was like, what? And I was like, no, let's see it. And we went. We had a great time. I didn't raise
you to watch Tom Cruise.
That was like May of last year, and then I saw it again. I mean, to be fair, I guess it left theaters for part of that time, but they re-released it before the Oscars, so I saw it again with my wife in like March or something, and I was like, it's wild that this movie has been in theaters for so like that. I think it was set a record, or I don't know how many movies have done this. It was like the #1 movie on which is the one that comes for it, Memorial Day, and then also on
Labor Day.
On Labor Day, which is like never happens. It basically ruled the entire summer.
Wow.
And I think, it was at points other movies were ahead of it, but it just had such tremendous staying power. People were so, apparently, I always heard Tom Cruise talk about this movie as someone who'd never seen Top Gun, but knows it's like an important role for him, and say like, he'll be like, the fans, they keep asking, what's going on with Top Gun? I'm like, is anyone really asking like, where is Top Gun? But apparently they were, because everyone
there are a
went out
lot
to see
of
this movie.
hardcore Top Gun fans. I also had never seen the movie until literally like a week ago when I found out that this was the pick, and I was like, well, shit, now I have to watch the original Top Gun and double dip, because I can't do sequels without.
Okay.
I need to know what happened before.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the first Top Gun either, but I still fucking love that movie.
Have you seen it now?
I've seen bits and pieces, but
So Laura's the only one who's seen both.
I am so disappointed in both of you.
Yeah.
Really, I'm the only one here.
I'm sorry.
Come on.
We ask guests to watch the movie. We don't ask them to watch the previous movies.
I even went back and watched Tom Cruise's Legend for this podcast.
On the off chance we might pick it.
Just in case. Top Gun is a very bad movie.
The original?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it is superbly bad.
Okay.
I can't even like get into just how bad it is. So I was very much not looking forward to watching this sequel, but the sequel is so much better than the original. It's like they remade it and made it good instead of like they should have just like not even.
It's like the Wright brothers. Their first plane wasn't great. I don't think it got very far. They're like, let's
survived.
smooth
Yeah,
that
they
shit
lived to
against
fight on.
this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you knew all the plane stuff was real, because I think in most screenings the movie would start with Tom Cruise like looking out and being like, thank you for coming back to the theater.
Yeah.
Everything you're about, these are real pilots, real G's or whatever. I just remember him saying all
was
that
like,
stuff.
where are the
That's
gangsters? I don't
G-force.
see- I thought I
That's
was gonna see
G-force. He
people.
wasn't saying real G's. Like,
Real popcorn.
That man single-handedly saved cinema.
he was told that by no one other than Steven Spielberg himself.
Yeah.
Who,
yeah.
Who now he's
Everybody
fighting
could have been
against.
watching that shit on their phone.
Yeah,
In the
exactly.
pandemic.
And like I watched it in like a nice big TV, like 72-inch, whatever.
Yeah.
I still was sitting there going, I wish I would have seen this in the theater.
Yeah.
This would
Yeah,
have been
that's
great.
what like the dude kept telling me. He's like, you got to see it in the theater, man. You got to see it in the theater. And I was like, fuck. All right, I'm gonna go see this guy.
Yeah, I heard like if you went to a certain theater, like the seats like rumbled.
Oh, the
or what-
4D one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which would have been awesome during that danger zone scene.
Man. Like it's so crazy to me, like how well this movie was made. Because like going in, I know it's propaganda, fucking bullshit. Like
Yeah, it's so pro-military bullshit.
They literally paid the studio to make this, the first one too.
Yeah.
To make this film, and it's just like
I think every movie that uses some association with the U.S. Army or its Navy, whatever, has to like be approved by the U. Like there's something, or they get some sort of script oversight or something. So That's unfortunately like a cost of doing business, which we can definitely say is fucked up. But I think what this movie smartly light touches all of the, we don't even know what country they're like invading. Maybe that makes it worse. I don't know. The fact that they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. But I think if they name that country North Korea, then, you know, it might have caused an international. And they're like, it's not really important. It's just about these guys learning to believe in their ability to fly.
Yeah.
But they try to light touch it. We never know who they are in this movie. And the threat is
I know who they are. Not America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess, where do you land on that? Are you like pick a country pussies, or do you think?
I mean, I just don't think the movie should have been made. Like just in general, like I don't think that that's like a way to do any kind of like war movie is to do like a light touch on it. Like personally, like why? Like it's also like, I mean, we can get into it, but like
let's get into it. This is the space.
This movie's so ridiculous, and we're still talking about Top Gun Maverick. Like, it's so much better than the first movie. Like, as a movie, I enjoyed it. Like, I had a great time. But like, they like the whole movie is basically about like mortality for the most part. It's like Tom Cruise as a Maverick coming into terms with his mortality, but they don't like really do anything with that. They just kind of like were like, oh yeah, he's. You know, he's worried about his kid of this guy that he knew like back 20 years ago. Like that's where his mortality lies, not in his own mortality at all. Like it would have been too interesting perhaps to give Tom Cruise his own son. So they're like, let's just give him someone else's kid. Tom Cruise is forever Peter Pan. But he never thinks about his own death at all. But that's what I wanted to like. Like I want to know what like Maverick is thinking.
Well, that would
now
upset all the dads of America.
No, exactly. I'm sorry, dads of America. I hate to bring up the fact that you're going to die soon and that you're dyeing your hair a ridiculous color. But
that's all natural.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. I was more interested much in as I was in the first movie, which you guys don't know about because you've never seen it. But
there's the first one?
I was much more interested in Iceman in this movie, who's like actually like about to die and does die.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, die in this movie. Like
in real life.
Yeah. And, well, he's not there yet.
Oh, he's not? I thought he did.
No. He's still
Val Kilmer is alive and well, people.
My bad,
don't
Val.
listen to
My bad, Val. I'm sorry.
You've been leaving flowers every morning at the wrong man's grave.
But like it's just I don't know, like this movie is like it feels like too light. Like they're making like there were no stakes in this movie. I'm like, of course Tom Cruise is gonna hit the mark that he's gonna hit.
Yes.
Of course he's gonna save the day at the end.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
But Tom Cruise, baby.
But when you're on the highway to the danger zone, you want to arrive at the danger zone at some point, is what Laura's saying.
That's all I wanted. I wanted like Tom Cruise to like address his own mortality in this movie.
Yeah.
Like because we never see him do that at all.
It could have happened when he got shot down and he was behind enemy lines. Yeah. That could have been the moment.
But
instead,
it's
just like helicopter.
Yeah, totally.
For a second, I thought they were ready to go there. When he gets shot down, saving his life for Rooster, I was like,
they were building it up.
They were ready to go there. Everything in the film is sort of hinting at it. I think you're right. It's the theme of the movie. But there is a part of me, I can't, I'd love to just like, knife your movie, Leonard, but I would say there's a part of me that's like, well, but it can't end this way. Sometimes I wonder, am I like, oh, well, if they did this, it'd be really shocking. But then it also made me wonder, like, would I hate that? There was a part of me that was thinking like, oh, this movie really ends with like sad trumpet music and Miles Teller emphatically slamming his wings into his coffin as Tom Cruise does for Val Kilmer. There might be a part of me that's like, you had the balls to do the thing, but that movie is so interested in just being like a perfectly engineered piece of fun that they're throwing at you that I feel like they were like, no, that's not what we're doing. Why would you think that's what we're doing? And it's tough to fit in scenes of moody rumination between beach football. I don't disagree with you, Laura. I'm just saying I think this is like what This is what
America needed.
Clearly, what America decides, and America decided Top Gun over and over and over again. I mean, this movie made like, we'll get to stats, but we should say up top, this movie made like $2 billion, I think, right?
Something
like
stupid.
2.5. It's like one of the biggest non-James Cameron movies of all time.
I mean, as a piece of marketing, it is truly a wonderful 2.5 hours.
100%.
It was great.
Which is crazy because I am so anti all of that. But
I know you are the most cynical. So yeah, this is a Quinn.
Which is why I was surprised, honestly, because you and I both love.
I know I pulled a Quinn.
Yeah.
And I did pull a Quinn, and I'm not gonna lie, but And I watched the movie again because I had only watched it the one time in the theaters, and I still enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised. I didn't enjoy it as much as I did when I was in the theater.
Yeah.
But I watched Minority Report first, and I hadn't watched that movie in a long time. Like when I was a kid, it was one of my favorite movies when I was in high school because I loved Philip K. Dick. I loved sci-fi. But watching it again, it was just like it also kind of felt the same where it was just like, what's really happening here?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like there is no depth. We didn't really even it was like we kind of feel bad for these precogs, but it's like we need to go more into like how these people were ripped from their mother's arms and there was no like humanity. They kind of hint at it a little bit.
They do kind of go into
but
that.
they don't really go into depth enough.
I remember being a kid. I did not see this movie in theaters. I would have been 11 when it came out. I don't think I was too old for it. I think I just missed it. I don't know. And despite loving I knew Steven Spielberg. Jurassic Park was one of my most I was aware of that, and I knew Tom Cruise. But I remember my mom renting the VHS. Maybe she'd seen it. I think she had, and was like, "You should watch this." And the first that first scene, I think, and Steven Spielberg is like, call him a populist, call him what you will. He's so good at building sequences dramatically.
Yeah.
And that scene where they're showing, they get a live one, they get a red ball, which is when the precogs don't have enough time to. What are you laughing at?
Just the red ball.
The red ball.
Not a brown ball.
Kill
a
me.
red ball.
I
Kill me
like
every
that
time.
tactile, the sphere. It just comes out like a little
I'm going to tell you right now, I hated that first scene.
It's so good. What
The
do you
whole time
mean?
he's like, did he close the door? He's in the park across the street. Walk up to the fucking house.
It's
no,
right
but
there.
all the houses look the same. What do you mean? It's all in the
but
But at
the
least
door's
walk
open.
across the street and look.
Yeah.
And he's like, did he close the door? He's like, oh, come on.
Oh, you're being a hater, man.
I think
That's
that's
great,
like a practical clue, though.
But also
It's
like
you
him being
don't
like,
need-
what's the address? What is it one of these 6 white guys? And it's just like, technology is so good right now. They needed a human aspect. He needed to be important. And it was like, if you have
Yes.
this type of technology,
Totally.
he would not be a factor in it at all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the entire movie Top Gun, which is not a sci-fi
Yes.
movie, they make a whole point about saying there's no reason a 60-year-old man should be training these things we have drones for. So let's, suspension disbelief in a
Well,
Tom,
that's the
in a
whole
Tom
point
Cruise
is
movie.
it's like us battling the technology.
I know, but we've lost that battle already in 2023. We certainly
true.
would have lost it in 2054. So I get your meaning, but I just think as a sequel, the tension of that thing, and also I remember as a kid feeling not sorry for the man who didn't get to stab his wife. There's a weird conflicting notion of this guy's being police. I didn't do it yet.
Yeah.
And there's this
he
weird
literally
thing where
caught
it's
his arm. That's what I was. He's like, I didn't do it. It's like he caught your arm as you were swinging. the
Yeah, it was
scissors
coming
into
down.
that
her
guy was
chest.
probably going to do it. But the point that it makes, which I think is interesting, is we are getting people for things that they haven't done. Which we have literal I guess psychics in this future, for real psychics, or so we think, that can't be manipulated. So you're pretty much dead to rights. But the idea of this guy didn't do anything. Don't you have to commit a crime before you get? I remember watching that and being like, oh, it's kind of a conflicting thing. You don't think of Tom Cruise as an out and out hero even when the movie begins, and then you follow him home and you see his crippling narrowin addiction, and or neuroin. I don't even remember how they pronounce it. But it's just it's an interesting movie that's slightly
The Neroin addiction was also pointless too.
yes,
basically.
it did not. He
it
did not
didn't
really
help. And
suffer.
it just made
from it.
him be questionable in the eyes of Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
That was the only thing.
Colin Farrell, who I remember this being among his breaks. I don't remember much Colin Farrell before this movie.
Yeah.
He's a bit
one of the big
miscast.
ones. Yeah.
If you're gonna have someone talking to
think
Tom
there's-
Cruise you're a loose cow or whatever, it should be Ed Harris, in Top Gun. It shouldn't be a guy who's younger than Tom Cruise and at that point much greener.
But John,
Fletch, just get him some coffee. Tell him some stories how I save your ass every day and you can't live without me.
I got coffee. Thank you. Danny Whitworth, twink from the Fed. Whoops. Got him?
Sorry, Danny, I'm gonna have to give you the full tour some other time.
Yeah.
Than Tom Cruise.
Well,
It's kind of a weird
his motivation
decision.
was he wanted Tom Cruise's job though.
Sure, I guess there was a little bit of
Yeah,
like
that's totally true.
He's like the young gun who is super Christian and believes that the precogs are.
I felt like as a
the
Colin
religious
Farrell,
some sort,
a Colin
like,
Farrell note.
there was so
of
many
like,
weird.
I just have
Like,
to
you
have,
think that was like his?
I don't
he's
know.
Like,
I
this
was
is my
maybe he's
motivation.
Irish, but I was just sort of like, we got to be
think you're
kissing
right.
across
Yeah,
at
yeah.
some point. But the real like Ed I almost said Ed Helms. The real Ed Harris of this film is Max von Sydow, who plays the overall director of the program. I forget his actual title, but he's essentially Tom Cruise's boss, and he's a scary Swedish man or wherever he's from. And
Yeah, was he trying to be American, or was he like just
not-
like?
Do you know what I hear? Nothing. No footsteps up the stairs. No hovercraft out the window, and no clickety-click of little spiders. Do you know why I can't hear any of those things, Danny? Because right now, the precogs can't see a thing.
Because I was like, that seems like a horrible accent for such an acclaimed actor.
I feel
Or
like
you
he
just,
wasn't
like-
trying to.
He just wasn't
hide
giving
it
a
that
shit.
much.
Yeah.
I think he's like, it's a future I could be from wherever. This is what people in Detroit sound like. Now.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny though. I remember watching it in theater and then being like, "Oh, it was him."
Yeah.
But like watching the second time, I was like, "Oh, it was him."
It was totally that guy. Yeah.
Right, yeah. A man with the real life name Max von Sydow is probably going to be the villain of your film more often than not.
Yeah.
Even though I think he's got like a, but that's I think also like beside the point from this movie, because I think there's a fair amount that you think maybe Colin Farrell is setting him up. I think that's what the movie.
Yeah, that's what they
wants you to
steer you
believe.
toward.
And
yeah.
he does seem sort of smarmy and shitty and stuff. And there's that scene where Max von Sydow kills him. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I just think like this movie in 2002, like where Tom Cruise was, he had made Vanilla Sky, which was a bomb.
This was like right the start of his like sci-fi run.
Yeah, this
It
was
like
around the
World
same
Wars-
world.
And he'd
World of
broken
the
up with
Worlds.
War of the
Nicole
Worlds.
Kidman.
Yeah.
So there's this weird. Tom Cruise has a love interest in movies, and I realize saying this to someone who chose Jerry Maguire, it's an interesting proposition. I think both of our movies, they kind of go, well, in one movie they're like, Jennifer Connelly still looks great. Nothing against Jennifer Connelly, but they force on you a very like, okay, I believe this love story in Top Gun, or in this movie they're like, let's make the wife estranged so he won't have to really like, we won't have to
with
see
her
him
at all.
Yeah.
do much, and he's missing a kid, so he's like immediately sympathetic.
Oh
And,
my
you know,
God.
like
I
they do a
forgot
lot of that work for
Tom
him.
Cruise made a mummy movie.
Yeah.
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 But there was like
Widely
Edge of Tomorrow. It was like this.
Which is the
What was
best.
that? Edge
War
of Tomorrow.
of the
Edge of
Worlds.
Tomorrow is mine.
I did not watch that. What's the one?
Oblivion.
Oh, Oblivion.
Yeah.
Oblivion. I actually kind of liked Oblivion.
War of
Yeah,
the Worlds.
Oblivion was good.
I really liked Oblivion.
War
I
of the
need to go-
Worlds, I think, was
ass,
the
right?
superior. No, I love War of the Worlds. I think that's the superior Spielberg
Really?
Cruise joint.
Oh,
yeah.
hard.
I gotta go back and
hard
rewatch.
disagree.
All right,
I love-
Wait, what do you like
I
about War of
remember
the-
being asked. We never asked this to you. What would have been your pick for this?
I mean, this one was hard because I do love a lot of Tom Cruise. If I was a kid, I would have said Days of Thunder because
Wow,
I grew up.
NASCAR back then. 80s.
Yeah. I grew up in
car.
Ohio.
Top
so,
car.
yeah, top
Yeah.
car, basically. By the same director, too, I believe.
Tony Scott.
Yeah, but I mean, that movie is worse than Top Gun. So, but I think now, like in college, I would have said Collateral because I thought Collateral was the best. Like Tom Cruise, gray hair villain. Like I'd never seen it before. I
That
couldn't
is
get
a
enough
different
of it.
flavor
But
for
just
him.
talking
Yeah.
about, I gotta talk about Jamie Foxx's range too, man. I feel like Jamie Foxx does.
He was so good in that movie.
just like playing the
Meek.
the meek.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
just
like weak fucking, which he normally does not play. And you know, some superstars are like, I'm not gonna play that character.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's
so-
Michael Mann like using like digital cameras, so it feels like really gritty and like grimy. It's just I'd never seen Tom Cruise like go that hard left before, you know.
Yeah.
But I think now it's Edge of Tomorrow. I think Edge of Tomorrow is
Wow.
like the
Now I gotta
best
watch it because I
Tom
love
Cruise movie.
sci-fi movies.
I haven't
but
seen
Dude, you would
Collateral.
love
or
it.
Never
Edge
watched
of
it.
Tomorrow.
You
but-
would love it, especially if you don't really like Tom. I always pitch people because they're like, oh, I don't really like Tom Cruise or whatever, which I think is insane. But if you don't like Tom Cruise, Edge of Tomorrow, he dies every 15 minutes. Like you see him die in a very funny comedic way, and it's very funny and like the action's awesome in it.
Blair, other than being a person of movie-going age during the 90s when you couldn't avoid Tom Cruise, we maybe should have asked you this earlier, but I'm interested. Why Tom Cruise? You gave us a few prompts, so it wasn't like you were like, we have to talk Tom Cruise movies, but I'm curious
He was the only
just because he's got
actor.
such a wide range of films to choose from, or is there something about your relationship to him as a movie star? Obviously, he's a real-life odd person, but accepting that...
I don't know, man. Like I never really clocked Tom Cruise when I was like growing up because he definitely felt like a heartthrobby, like all the girls loved Tom Cruise, and there weren't like a lot of action movies that, because I loved action and horror growing up. There weren't a lot of Tom Cruise vehicles in that vein.
Yeah, it was
really.
a lot of drama. Like the 90s was all dramatic movies.
Yeah.
And he was trying to be. Yeah, he was
Mission
trying. He was
Impossible
trying.
was
That's
the
probably one of his few '90s straight up action movies.
Yeah,
and even that one.
It's a De Palma movie,
right,
so
right.
it's kind of like just a spy thriller more than it is anything. But like,
Hasta
I'm just
lasagna, don't get any on you.
Hasta lasagna, don't get any on you.
I love like Magnolia, and Eyes Wide Shut is a great movie. But like, I started to appreciate Tom Cruise more as I got older, and now looking back, I'm just like, that guy, like he is a true movie star, and everything that I see him in, I'm like, yeah, I believe that. Even him on Heroin, I'm like, you've never done a drug in your life, but I believe that.
He does the Tom Cruise version of the thing, and to go back to War of the Worlds, which I'm still like, I respect the take, but I am interested that one I did see in theaters. That one I do remember being very hyped for. That one I have not seen in a long time, and I'm worried does not hold up outside of a couple sequences that I remember being really strong. But that the anytime Tom Cruise tries to be like aggressively normal, like him playing like dad with a Yankee cap in like the backyard of his like, you know, New York apartment building where he's just throwing the ball around and he's got like the world's weirdest throwing motion. You can tell that he's not, but like you're saying, you're like, when you say, I think that's the perfect way to say it's like, I believe that, where it's like, yeah, this isn't my dad. This is Tom Cruise being a dad. Sure.
There's something about how hard he commits to literally everything, like to the point where he will like jump between buildings to like make you believe that he's doing a thing. Even if it's like he's not Oscar worthy, like he's not Daniel Day-Lewis, but I'm still like, yeah, buddy, you cried, like good job, I believe you.
Don't forget about Interview with a Vampire.
No, he's great in Interview.
He's great because he's so I think Brad Pitt is the one you watch Interview with the Vampire, and it's like, all right, he's not the best, but he's a beautiful man. They made him,
He looks like he's made out of porcelain.
He looks immortal. So, but Tom Cruise is really chewing the scenery and people's necks in that movie. Magnolia is a movie I think I saw Magnolia so late. Talk about like, I missed the whole, I was too young for Magnolia.
I've never seen it.
It's not my favorite P.T. Anderson movie.
No,
by
and
any
it
means.
is so challenging so long, and I had been so hyped that when I finally saw it, I was like, that's it? Okay. But Tom Cruise is taking an interesting swing in that movie, playing like a huge chauvinistic like scam artist dick. Whose dad is dying, and he does cry in that movie, but he acts so hard. Sometimes he acts too hard, and that's where
when he claps his hands.
Yeah,
he's doing that. Yeah,
and it works as like that TJ Mackey or whatever his name is on stage and on talking to people in that movie. But when he's trying to be intimate, I think he also still goes big. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last episode with Jerry Maguire. That'd be like, help me, help you,
Help me, help you.
help me, like it just can't not be intense.
But also Nicolas Cage does the same thing and is beloved.
Nicolas Cage, I think, does it in the service of more interesting off the wall films.
True, but I will have to say that much like Nick Cage,
if you go back, there's a lot of
shit in there.
I'm not suggesting all of his movies are good. Tom Cruise has more good movies. I'm saying Nick Cage will go down
that he acts hard in every scenario of every movie that he's probably done.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, I'd say, is also not the most naturalistic actor. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the first time people have maybe compared their acting styles. But
I just like Tom Cruise makes a point to work with great directors, and so every movie that you think of that Tom Cruise is in, it's usually by someone who's a great director. Ron Howard, Michael Mann, all the big names of whatever era, he zones in and tries to make a movie with them, which I think is
Smart.
admirable.
He's
and
one of
smart,
those
yeah.
old school things, which is when people make that whole, we don't have movie stars anymore, and you can roll your eyes or whatever. But it feels like we don't. Not like Tom Cruise.
Totally.
And it was the idea
Our
of
movie
being
star
a
now
box
is
office.
The Rock.
Right. And The Rock has
Who
worked with like
contractually obligated not to lose a fight in movies and shit like that. It's like,
Michael
come on.
Mann, Brian De Palma, Steven Spielberg, all of these great P.T. Anderson, like all these great directors, Kubrick that Cruise has worked with. And then you look at The Rock, who has a similar charisma to Tom Cruise. Maybe he's not as strong an actor, but he leads the same type of movies. I can think of very few the names of the directors that have made the films that The Rock has been in. And certainly they're not of the same caliber. And I think that's the difference. It was like using your star power and directing it towards getting something interesting made. Being like, let me make a weird sci-fi movie with Spielberg, or let me do this weird love story with Kubrick. All these kinds of strange things. I think he was willing to use his persona to get more, to sound super gross, interesting art made in the time, where The Rock is like, Jungle Cruise, baby.
Yeah.
Let's get aboard.
I mean, Tom Cruise truly cares about like movies and the spectacle and the cinema.
Too much.
I mean, arguably too much. But yeah.
Did we fuck up by not choosing Mission? We should get into our criteria, but did we fuck up by not choosing a Mission Impossible movie, or are you like, I'm out on most of those?
Those are fine to me, but I think it would be hard to choose Mission
Felt
Impossible.
like a trap, because if I picked, say, Mission Impossible, who can even remember which one they're on, like numerically, which one they're on? Once they moved away from 3, and then it got like Ghost Protocol, and then it's like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm going
I
to start
think
to lose how many there are.
6, maybe?
Right. I think the last one is probably my favorite one, the most recent one. But like, it felt like a thorny thing, or if I picked the one but you liked a different one better, then you'd be kind of stepping in quicksand, That felt
totally.
like a trap.
Yeah.
So
No, neither of you picked my favorite Tom Cruise movie.
Oh,
so.
then can you announce what it is now?
I mean, I think
Or
it's
maybe-
Edge of Tomorrow. I think,
Edge of
right?
Tomorrow.
I could rewatch that movie anytime. Like, I think we should put it on right now.
Let's all take a
Let me
2-hour
skip
Edge
work,
of Tomorrow
yeah.
break. Okay, so our patented 5-point criteria, Lehr, I think you might be familiar with them. We talk about, what's the first thing we talk about, Leonard?
Pop culture.
Pop culture. I think it is hard to judge a movie 20 years ago versus a movie today, but I think in the culture, in terms of everyone has seen it with their eyeballs, I think you got to give this one to Top Gun
Yeah,
Maverick.
there's no question.
Without a
However,
With what you said, Memorial Day, Labor Day.
yeah.
The motherfucker wouldn't stop talking to me about goddamn Top Gun.
Now, a lot of the pop culture that it's using is just sort of reviving the pop culture. Because, like,
Exactly.
what is the beach football scene if not the volleyball scene from
Yeah,
the original?
that movie wouldn't exist without the original Top Gun.
Right.
But that is also like a pop culture thing.
And we are in the age of requels, reboots, legacy sequel, whatever you want to call it. And
Oh,
there is
man,
something
I
to be said for
saw-
Tom Cruise making the best one.
Yeah.
Like, why does this? Everyone is like, yeah, forget that first one. This is the best. But like, they essentially remake Star Wars with The Force Awakens, and people are like, fuck you.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So
I
it's weird
saw-
that like Tom Cruise gets a pass on that.
I just recently saw a remake of my pick for your pick for next week's episode, and I honestly was
boy.
upset that I enjoyed it. So
Well, that's what you got to stay away from, the films of Jack Harlow.
don't give it away.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Spoiler.
Doesn't
we could bleep that out. People are gonna be like, what?
I think
no.
it's pretty easy that Minority Report had a little bit of noise.
I do
He was
think
Tom
that-
Cruise, but yeah.
Well,
This
that was also around the time of his couch jumping too. Was the
It's a little
Minority.
You're thinking War of the Worlds.
Was
He was
that-
promoting
was that-
War of the Worlds when he
Okay.
did that.
They
So
were the-
that's a few years later. But
Okay.
but we're not far off.
Yeah.
And this was post his relationship with Nicole Kidman. I think his Scientology was starting to creep back to the forefront of what people thought about with him. He'd been a Scientologist, but nobody was talking about that in the 90s, really, or at least not in the same way.
No.
But this was pre-Katie, Minority Report I'm talking about. Pre-Katie Holmes, pre-Oprah Couch Jump, but close. I think
What,
that
what
was
about
05.
the Matt Lauer interview where he
That's
likes
also 05. That was all
Okay.
it was all around the time of War of the Worlds. And I remember because everyone's like, stop doing this
Yeah,
on the War of the
please.
Worlds tour. Minority Report, he was still a good boy. He was
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get in number 2. How well do these films hold up?
good.
Mine is a year
Yours
ago.
just
Not
came
even
out.
a year. It just came out, so it's not even.
Do you think this movie will have like some movies that were like Avatar that I know now, but in 2009, everyone that saw Avatar was like, hey, pretty good time, that Avatar, or they were fans of it. But obviously there was a big cultural wave of backlash that came at it. Do you think a similar thing is going to happen for Top Gun? People are going to be like, why were we
I don't
watching
think
this?
people are gonna. I don't think that Top Gun Maverick has the same pop culture influence that Avatar had at the time.
You're saying it's less than?
I'm saying it's not going to be in people's heads the way Avatar was, the way it was hyped up. Like Avatar was hyped up for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And it was like
so
bringing 3D
that's why it had
into
the cultural backlash after the fact. And I don't think we had to worry about that.
It felt like we were being force fed
But
Avatar,
also,
but Top Gun was the thing we all decided we
Avatar
wanted to
was
see.
so bad. Like I'm a cynic. I'm a contrarian. I did not see Avatar in theaters. I was like, I'm not seeing this fucking movie.
Same.
And they re-released it a year later in 2010, December 2010.
Sorry.
And I saw it in a theater with 3 other people, and I was with 2 of the people, and we were all on shrooms. And it was a religious experience.
Yeah, dude.
It was amazing.
The first one you're talking about.
The first one, and I saw it in theaters in 2010. I then saw it at a hash bar I was working at in Oakland, like 3 months later, high as shit.
I'm developing,
and it was
sensing a theme.
dog shit. It was so fucking bad, and I was like, I hate this movie.
I think the
and
first
I've never
time you
watched
watch
it again.
it hits you. And
It's
you're
hard.
Like,
Everyone comes out the first time being like, yeah, pretty
I
good.
mean, I was
you know?
also on shrooms, so that helped a lot.
I think
like
helps everything.
People's main criticism of the Avatar movies, and we will get back to our is
it
that
was also in 3D. It was like in 3D. I'm on shrooms.
people
in the
are like,
theater.
well, but I wouldn't want to watch that movie 6 months later on my laptop. And I'm like, me neither. The whole point, and James Cameron's pretty direct in telling you how he wants you to watch it. It's like, see it in the theater. Only see it once if you want. But it is like an experience. I felt the same about the second one. I was like, okay.
I never saw the second one.
Still haven't seen the second
I'll
one.
never see it again. Like, if you haven't seen it, you missed it in theaters, my genuine recommendation is don't. It's
Yeah.
not worth it if you're not going to see it on a big screen. And it may not be worth it even then, but it's definitely not made any better by it's like the biggest drop off from like in theater to home viewing experience. People are like, oh, I want to wait for it. I'd be like, and I'm not even saying it like as a contrarian, like go to the theater, you lazy fuck. I'm just saying if you think you don't want to go to the theater to see it, then don't see it at all, because I don't think it holds up really unless you're seeing it. Go see Avatar 2.
We talked about, Minority Report, the balls and the interacting and the hardware with the...
Hey, well, we live in a world with thought police now.
Yeah.
A lot of people looking to cancel you for before any crime is committed.
You been hold on to that
Here
one.
we go. Here we go.
How's this held
Should
up?
I not be here? Did I stumble on the wrong podcast?
I do think there's interesting, encroaching technology, letting it take place in our lives and implementing it on a wide scale. Like they're about to literally a big part of that movie, if the plot matters, which it doesn't really. But like all Hitchcock wrongman thrillers, it doesn't really matter. It's like they're being chased. He's got to figure something out. But the idea, like they're about to roll this shit out, and it's a flawed system controlled basically by one man, which is like what I think we found out that most American and global institutions are. Or if we didn't know in 2002, it's been made abundantly clear to us in the 20 years since. And I think in terms of how it holds up, a lot of it's kind of Spielberg doesn't make a lot of like depressing movies, and this one has a kind of manufactured happy ending, much like yours. But I think the things it's talking about of like, hey, maybe this future tech, which seems great, it's making the world perfect. But as Yogi Berra told us, if the world was perfect, it wouldn't be. You can't have a world without crime. You gotta let people commit the crime before you lock them up. There's a lot of
Also, the thing, the eye thing didn't hold up to me because he's using his eye to get into the fucking police, into the precog holding area.
Yeah,
and it's like, wouldn't that like set off an alarm that he was
totally.
in the building?
Totally.
Like,
there are a lot of like just major plot holes in this movie.
But that
that
scene
keep,
also,
like,
as a kid, that freaked me out. Watching that movie,
gross.
rented
that
it.
is
Well,
a cool scene that catches the one in the grate.
The dude's literally like snotting into his hand before he performs. Peter Stormare, shout out, like snotting into his hand before he replaces his eyeballs. And then that scene where he like walks into the mall. The mall sequence is great. I'm sure you didn't like that either with the umbrella and all
that scene is actually cool.
Yeah,
but I like that scene.
Okay, I was a little pre-defensive.
Wait, chugging balloons.
God, yeah, the woman.
Okay, that part I did hate when she's in the house and she's telling about the future with her son.
Run.
She hasn't interacted with humans much other than
I know, but
sharing
then she's
a
like
urine-soaked
and
pool
then
with
she's
her
like,
two brothers.
Run! There comes like, you should have told me this 30 seconds ago. This
You're
is
a
some more
precog.
time. Yeah,
But she's not that pre. It's like that Nick Cage again. That Nick Cage movie where you can only see like 2 minutes into the future.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
knowing. Yeah.
It's
But
like, yeah,
anyway,
just go to.
there's some like
go to a blackjack table. But
there's
apparently
some
that's how the
great
movie starts. I don't know.
Spielberg sequences, and there's that moment where he's walking through, and it's like, "Hello, Mr. Whatever. Did you like those chinos you bought from the Gap or whatever?" Like, because he's got the wrong man's eyeballs.
Oh
and it's
yeah,
how you
like
get into everything.
Hachimura or whatever.
That's
yeah.
coming, man. Eyeball recognition. better get your backup eyeballs on set. All right. So both these movies hold up pretty well, or
I
at
think
least
so.
it's negligible to talk about it because Top Gun's like still out in theaters. Maybe I don't know. But let's talk about
the most important criteria
that we do.
Was Stephen Root in either one of these movies?
Lure?
No.
Okay, thank you. Moving on.
Damn. He could have easily been in either one.
Who would he be in Top Gun? One of the generals chewing Tom's ass
the
out?
first he should have been Ed Harris in that movie,
He would
without
be
a
Ed
doubt.
Harris, 100%.
I love that this movie just like paid Ed Harris however much just to be stern for the first 5 minutes, and then he's like, peace.
Yeah.
Just for that shot alone. I'm sure it wasn't even him. It was a stunt double where the plane blows
Flies
the
over,
roof
yeah,
off.
that shit was crazy.
Yeah, that's an amazing shot.
Take that check, Ed.
Yeah, he would be Ed Harris. Or he'd be like
Glenn
John
Powell.
Hamm,
Glenn
or
Powell.
like John Hamm, or like the black
Yeah.
dude.
John Hamm. He could have been John Hamm, or they could take the role from
That
the one
dude
black
was
guy
so
in this
funny.
movie.
He's like, I believe in the system, but I'll see you.
That guy's great. Have you guys ever seen Southside, that like TV show on HBO Max?
No.
Oh yes,
He's
the writer. He's the
yeah,
I did not know he's the lead writer.
Yeah,
He's
he's
the
awesome in
co-creator.
that. Yeah,
It's just so if we talk about Colin Farrell.
Fuck you. Listen, I love HBO, but fuck you, HBO Max, for dropping the HBO and for canceling Southside.
Why did you cancel Southside?
Why?
I don't understand. It was
It
such a
is
good
so
show.
fucking good.
There's no camera over there. Yes, there's. Sorry, there's one right there. But I feel like that's my fuck up. But I was gonna say, HBO doesn't have access to it. There's no camera. There's no HBO camera over there.
We'll get you.
Hey, listen. On my other podcast, I talk shit about this apparel company that I ordered something from and never got. And I posted it, and they emailed me, and they were like, "Oh my God, we're so sorry." And they gave me a refund, and they apparently sent me my jacket that I ordered.
No shit.
Talk to HBO Max.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
then
HBO
maybe
Max
they're
fucking-
if they're listening. Stephen Root in my movie would have been he would have been the guy who
Tim Blake Nelson.
Tim Blake Nelson, or the guy. There's all
Or
manner of weird.
or he'd be like Leo Crow, the guy he.
Yeah.
Yes, that was what I was thinking.
You're supposed to kill me.
The man that they made.
Yeah.
They made believe killed his son. You know, I think there's a lot of. Also, he might have been more well cast as like Colin Farrell's character. I think
maybe that
an
too.
authoritative kind of
Exactly.
guy. But talk about like Colin Farrell not being old enough to like go toe to toe with Tom Cruise in 2002. It is funny about seeing 60-year-old Tom Cruise get chewed out by John Hamm, who's like 10 years his junior, being like, "You're going rogue, Maverick. We're gonna have to pull you up."
He seems to think that you have something left to offer the Navy. What that is, I can't imagine.
With all due respect, sir, I'm not a teacher. Just want to manage expectations.
Like Tom Cruise has outlived or outgrown
Well, I think that's
the
the whole
men
point,
who
though,
are
is like
trying to pen him in his movies.
Oh my
now.
God! He's like, all right, the new plan is 4 minutes. Like, no.
Even the Jennifer Connelly's little girl was giving him shit.
yeah.
Don't break her
You're
heart.
still a captain?
Talk about no growth, where it's just like, oh, I'll just try to make it work with her again.
Yeah, why not?
Back in San Diego, Jennifer Connelly still looks good. She's got my bar tab, so I might as well just try to hook up.
I'm in town. Why not?
Let me jump out the window like I'm 17 years old.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
great.
Let's talk about stats, Leonard. You go first.
Don't break her heart again. It was like, come on, you're not that well put together, little girl. Okay, so stats, Top Gun 2022, it's an 8.3 on IMDb, a 96% of Rotten Tomatoes. That's insane. It was a budget of 170 to 177, and it made $1.5 billion.
1.5. Okay.
1.5 billion.
I weirdly overestimated. That's still an insane amount of money.
Still insane.
Yeah.
On a $177 million budget.
That's a good return.
Yeah.
He was correct. There's also that whole COVID thing about this movie where they were trying to like the studios, whatever,
where
they're
he
like,
was like,
drop it
"You
on
are
streaming,
fucking-"
drop it on streaming. It'll launch Paramount Plus or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, why don't we just hold it and make $1.5 billion?
Yeah. And he
Correct
was right.
decision.
He was
Right?
totally right.
Especially because he's getting shit on the back end. So it's like,
Oh yeah,
He has
that was
hella
all about
points.
his points for
hella
sure.
points
But
on
I
the back
definitely
end.
don't even think he cares. I think dude, he's a maniac enough to be like, no, I need Lur and Leonard and Quinn to see it in a theater. Although
Yeah.
you didn't. But yeah.
Yeah, I refused to do what Tom Cruise.
Did they
tells
still
me.
put the Tom Cruise thing in the beginning when you watch the DVD?
No,
Thank
no,
you for popping
no,
in
but
this
I've,
DVD.
I've
you're
actually
about to
seen
see
that
are real
online.
G's.
Real popcorn.
My stats, I'll go quick. Minority Report made for, well, actually, let me tell you, it's got 7.6 on IMDb. It's got a 90% Rotten Tomato meter fresh. It made $358 million worldwide on a budget of $102 million. Did I leave anything out? I think that's usually what we cover.
I'm just kind of astounded that Top Gun was only $177 million.
Yeah, like 20 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like there's some future advertising in Minority Report, which I think they get away with because it's fun, like him walking into the gap, like that sort of feels like it serves the story.
Lexus.
Lexus is the future cars. It's like, that's not how we're going to be driving. I don't know who thought we'd just go over the building.
Yeah, it's like we created a whole new infrastructure and fucking
Tesla
50
kind of
years.
looks like that shit. I think Elon like saw that movie and was like, I can make a car like that. I can
Does
make
it hold
a ton.
up?
No. Elon was like, I can buy a company that makes a car like
Yeah,
this.
totally.
Didn't make it, Elon.
A huge hit for the time, dwarfed by Top Gun for sure,
Yes.
his biggest hit of all time. But a representative Tom Cruise movie, you make it for $100 million, you make 3.5 times the multiplier. Well done. But we weren't going to talk about Tom Cruise's little scene box office flops. We're not here to talk about legend, Lure. We're here to talk about
Tom
Cruise, the movie
Best Tom
star.
Cruise. All right,
And I think it leads us to our final arguments.
Do you want to go first? You want me to go first? I'll go first.
I want you to go first.
All right, one last episode. We're talking best Tom Cruise movie, and like we said, Tom Cruise has been over 40 films, 80s, 40 years. Probably been in more than 40 films. Probably been 50, 60 films.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of representation of Tom Cruise. But when I think of Tom Cruise, I think of box office. I think of mega movie star. And like we just said, Tom Cruise single-handedly saved the movie industry with this movie. And it's a feel-good movie. There's a reason why it was the #1 movie on Memorial Day and on Labor Day. Yes, it is some propaganda, pro-military bullshit. But even knowing that, I still bought in. I still had a good time. And I think that's what Tom Cruise ultimately wants from people when they go see his film. He wants them to have a good time. He wants them to feel good. He wants it to be a happy ending. And I'll say, I feel like Tom Cruise kind of played himself in this movie. It felt like I was watching Tom Cruise. Like it just felt real. It felt like Maverick was a real guy. And I felt for him, and they could have maybe gone a little bit more depth of the mortality and the real feelings of the. I mean, I guess they played into like, I want these men to come home. Like, Tom Cruise is the hero. He's not the typical military guy where he doesn't give a fuck about the people that he's flying with or working with.
True.
But I'm just going to say that this is it. Like, we're seeing Tom Cruise on screen like 75% of the time, and he is the driving force in this movie. I don't think you can make this movie without Tom Cruise and it feels the way that it feels.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And like I said, it's like made the most money. It might feel like a cop-out because it just came out. But I mean, I think if you ask Tom Cruise what maybe his favorite most Tom Cruise movie is, it's this one. It's the one he's been working towards.
I would love to ask Tom Cruise that question.
Yeah.
But
It probably wouldn't be his answer, but I'm going to say that for this podcast in my argument. And that's my final argument.
Yeah. All right. Good argument. Quinn?
Tom Cruise is a believable character in Maverick. Okay. Lur, I have seen the future.
Shit.
And I'm about to shit a red ball.
Thank you.
You can't pick this movie. You can't pick Leonard's film.
Okay.
It is propaganda. It is the most, but the reasons that he made, I was interested to hear his argument.
And yours, is it?
Let me make my argument. I just let you make yours.
All right.
But I'm going to come for you more than you came for me. Leonard got ahead of propaganda early, which is smart. I know you agree with that. You said kind of crucially, I don't know if movies like this should be made, but the point stands. It is the most Tom Cruise movie, perhaps, of the two being filmed. It's also the reasons he asked you to vote for it are like asking you to vote for root for the Dow Jones. He's like, I chose this movie because of box office. You can't pick this movie for two reasons. I don't think it's a better movie than Minority Report, but that's subjective, so I'm not going to argue that too strongly. And you might disagree. But I'm saying, like, Leonard he pulled the Quinn. He said it in the beginning. And what pulling a Quinn means for those, I don't acknowledge every time that Leonard says I pull a Quinn that I'm pulling a Quinn, but it basically means being like, I don't have a good answer for this. I'm just going to pick the last one. So he looked way back into Tom Cruise's IMDb and he picked the movie that most recently came out. And he picked a movie that he does not believe is the best Tom Cruise movie. He picked the movie that he thought would win. And I think that's
my second choice. I said it was my second choice.
Right. I think I would have been much more interesting if you here made an impassioned plea for Vanilla Sky, which I also would have come at you for. But I think we talked about it's hard to argue what's the Tom Cruise, whatever. But I think we've talked about his collaboration with great directors. This my film, Minority Report, satisfies that.
Yeah, let's talk about your film.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I think this is a more interesting movie. I think it's I think it's a better movie. Is it as finely tuned, a nice, a Swiss watch, goes off perfectly? No, there's stuff about, even I was watching, I was like, do we need the scene where he's going through the factory as it's making the car? But there's also nothing near as interesting. There's nothing near as interesting in, I'm talking about my own. That's one of your favorites?
I'm so mad I forgot to talk about that.
Yeah, but you did.
The seat comes down,
yeah,
and then the car just goes out of the factory and he drives it off. Where did all the other cars go that were being made?
I'm not such a Spielberg moment.
I'm not suggesting it's a perfect movie, but
I'm so happy I completely, because I was going to come for that part so hard.
I do think there are interesting scenes in this movie that are contrary to not in Top Gun. The scene where Tom Cruise is trying to stop himself from killing the guy who he believes at that point is the person responsible for killing his son asks much more of him than anything. Tom Cruise now wows you by literally throwing himself out of an airplane or flying it up into space.
Yeah.
He used to try to stretch as an actor too. And I think when we think about why people liked him, what his movie star persona was, that he would do slightly different things. Was it always kind of had a Tom Cruise sheen on it? Yes. We don't actually believe he's a heroin addict, and we don't actually believe that he had a son that died. But that scene where he's in the pool and he comes up and his son's not there anymore, he's acting. You feel real emotions for a Tom Cruise character. And Top Gun is asking you to root for big dollar signs in your eyes. And I think there's only one moral choice to make. But you're going to go with your heart. So Lehr, that's my argument. I think pick the more authentic movie in Minority Report.
I think that those arguments were both incredibly flawed. So I'm just going to have to go with my own personal choice, which I am, as much as I hate to say it, and I'm going to get so much shit for it, for choosing this movie from all my college friends, I'm going to have to go with Minority Report.
Yes!
I'm sorry, Leonard. I'm sorry.
I was like, he hates both. Which one is he?
I hate both. I really do hate both. I'm sorry.
We didn't say it because I'm too proud to say it, but I'm on the bubble. If you chose Leonard's film, he would have won the season. One episode.
No. I didn't want to bring it up.
But you can't go back.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Wait, so...
No, now we're tied going into episode 9, week 9, round 9.
Good.
That's what we want.
Good. It'll make for some drama. Why did you choose Maverick? I would have so gone with Vanilla Sky. I would have so gone with Vanilla Sky.
What if this was Vanilla Sky versus Eyes Wide Shut? Would you have had a different?
I would have gone with Eyes Wide Shut.
Okay.
All right. So our passion picks and our populist picks. I come out.
Yeah,
the winner
I think you
both
come out
times.
on the top on that one.
So sorry. So your college friends are gonna give you shit, but what ultimately was the factor for you?
It's ultimately like Spielberg. I thought Minority Report is so uneven, and it's such a Spielberg trying to do a Spielberg. There's so many the car scene with it felt like Indiana Jones to me.
Yep.
There's so much that's goofy about that movie. But in the end, I still think that it scratched the surface of what it was trying to do a little bit more than Top Gun Maverick did. Okay.
Make money?
Okay. Is that what this is about, Leonard? Is that what this is about?
Tom Cruise.
Oh, come on.
All right.
Anyway.
But no, that's not why. That was my argument. That's not why I picked it, because it made the most money.
I know. I had to come at you hard, Leonard. I
Yeah.
couldn't
You
lose.
did.
I couldn't
You did.
lose. I told you I could see the future. I got a precog thing earlier.
I just I hated that first Top Gun so much. And this second one was so much better. I had such a good time. It even tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. But ultimately,
When you're making a movie about trying to save Miles Teller, it's flawed.
I can't stand that man.
It's a little flawed.
I can't stand
I
that
did not
actor.
know women loved Miles Teller.
What is?
I think women love Glenn Powell. I was coming out of that
I
movie
thought it was
crushing
Glenn
on
Powell.
Glenn Powell myself.
Yeah.
All right, so I didn't know who Miles Teller was, and my ex-girlfriend, who at the time when I saw this was like, "Oh, everybody loves Miles Teller," because I was going to see it. And the entire time, I thought Miles Teller was Glenn Powell when I was watching it. And then I found out afterward that Miles Teller was Rooster. And I was like, wait, what?
No, I was more into Bill Pullman's kid than Miles Teller even.
Everyone told Leonard before he knew who he was, everyone loves Miles Teller. And then you're like, you mean speedometer? What are you talking about?
Speedometer?
The Miles Teller?
Oh, God. Jesus Christ.
We'll cut this,
All right.
We'll cut this out.
All right.
Lehr,
Where can people
thank
find
you so much for picking
Thank
my
you for
film.
having me.
Thank you for
Finally.
being a wonderful guest for a wonderful prompt, which I have won, and letting me live to die another day. Where can the people find you? What do you got going on?
I'm going to lose this season.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Where can people send you Jerry's?
Oh God, send me Jerry's at Everything Is Terrible 666 on Instagram or Twitter. But yeah. I do that still, and if you want to check out some really horrible selfies on Instagram, go to Tragic Selfie.
Okay,
it's pretty great. But that's it.
Lehr woke up bright and early to do this podcast. We were very happy to have him on, and we thank him for his time sacrifice. And I really am glad that we got this one in. Leonard, do you have anything else to say? I gotta tell you,
I had to win this episode. I'm not winning the next episode.
I'm not a naval pilot, but I'm gonna be flying home from
all
this.
I know is my whole angle for next episode is racism.
Yeah. Who's the guest?
I don't know if he's watched my movie.
Those
yet.
always go well for me.
I appreciate Lehr matching the Adidas shoes with the Adidas jacket. I just got to say that.
Got to. Bringing it for this podcast.
All right. Well,
and until next time, folks, we will see you at the cinema. Tom Cruise saved it, so you can still go. Thank you.
For you.
We salute you, Tom.
Bring back Southside.
On the biggest screens exclusively and only in the theaters. So I hope you enjoy. We've made it for you.